And I think he chose Montgomery because he thought it was a sleepy little southern town where he could, first of all, finish his PhD dissertation, but then where he could really develop his preaching skills and study and learn from people how to pastor a church. He did all of that, but about 2 weeks after he mailed in his dissertation, Rosa Parks sat down in the bus.
Come on up, come on up, you better come on up. Oh, yeah.
Today in Montgomery, city buses move through the streets almost unnoticed. Passengers pay their fares and sit where they please. In the Alabama of the early 1950s, this was not the case. Segregation laws relegated black passengers to seats at the back of the bus. On December 1st, 1955, a 42-year-old African-American seamstress named Rosa Parks refused to yield her seat in the front row of the colored section to a white man. She was arrested in front of the Empire Theater, now the site of the Rosa Parks Library and Museum.
Rosa had no idea that in doing what she did would affect the world in the end. She had no idea. She didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't know whether she would be killed or not. But there comes a time in one's life, as ML once said, if you have nothing to die for, you have nothing to live for. And that was her time.
Her refusing to get up and move to the back of the bus was, in some ways, one of the most powerful single protests that the world has ever seen.
They had decided to ask everybody to stay off the buses on December the 5th because that was the day that Rosa's trial was going to be.
That morning when we woke up and those buses were empty, that's what I'm talking about when I say I believe in miracles. There was joy in the streets. People sang, they clapped, they cheered. It was a new day for Montgomery.
It was so successful, the preachers got together and we decided we were going to make 3 proposals to the bus company. They did not accept it, and we decided the bus boycott would have to continue until it was accepted.
A group of ministers and activists hastily formed an organization called the Montgomery Improvement Association to direct the boycott. One of its first orders of business was to elect a leader.
There's something about it that we can't quite explain why leaders evolve at a certain point, but I think it was ordained of God that Martin would be the leader because of his dignity, because of his great learning, because of his command of the English language, and because he represented the Black Baptist Church, which was a church that was every crossroads and hamlet in this nation.
And they all agreed on King because he was college trained, seminary trained, new in town, and so the cross was laid on him and he stood up under the cross.
I always say he didn't lead black people because they were on their way. It was almost like Gandhi said, "There go my people, I must catch them, for I am their leader."
Martin King always considered himself a Christian minister. He never considered himself a Christian minister and a civil rights worker, and that dichotomization has been the way a number of people have interpreted him. But from those of us who are in the inside and from folks in the theological discipline, he was really a minister living out the implications of the gospel.
We don't not only have a right to be free, we have a duty to be free. Yeah. And so when you sit down on the bus and you sit down in the front or you sit down by a white person, you're sitting there because you have a duty to sit there, not merely because you have a right.
3 things happened in Montgomery. The movement got its leader, Martin Luther King. The movement got its method, nonviolent, passive resistance. And the movement brought to the fore, number 3, the political power and activism and religious enthusiasm of the African-American church, which was the most powerful institution in the black community.